Now, into the ticket office of Disneyland.
Oh boy, let's do this.
Don't think the CIA is going to be trying to hack your second-gen iPod.
I didn't think so. There might have been a lot of illegal music on there. I wouldn't doubt it. But, I mean...
You were supposed to bring death to the flagships, not join them.
Google has found a new way to piss me off.
iTunes is a constant source of embarrassment.
Behind-the-scenes camera crap.
Here, tell us about courage, Phil. Tell us about courage.
I am Nadella.
I can't do it anymore without laughing. I was going to do the whole thing.
Welcome, everyone, to the Calling All Platforms podcast. I am your host, Wes, and I'm here with Landon.
Hello.
And Caleb. And if you can't tell, that was not me. That was actually Caleb.
Caleb is dying.
And this is how he's dying. It's that season. Season. He's recovering from a cold.
'Tis the season. It's spring. Weather's getting warm. I've got a cold. Love it.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Anytime I walk outside, it just seems like, it's just like, okay, here you go.
Like, normally I would be having problems with allergies around this time of year, but I was proactive. I was on top of it. I went and bought more allergy pills. I've been taking them every day. It's been really great. And then nature decided to punish me and gave me a cold anyways.
It's like, you think you can get away. But
Yeah,
It's like,
no.
no, you must lose your voice and be congested.
Oh, man. Well, I think we need to get into this because we might have a couple things to talk about. So this episode of our podcast is probably going to be called our Google I.O. episode because that is exactly what happened. And this, dear listener, give you a heads up. This is the start, I believe, of the news rolling in from all faucets everywhere.
Yep.
Yeah, Google I.O. tends to kick things off for the summer, and it just doesn't really stop after that.
Yeah.
And this is, I think this year is the one true year that's after the, pandemic. So things are going to start really rolling out and people are pushed. So there's going to be a lot of news. So I'm just preparing you. Be prepared for these next episodes to really kick this off. But
We'll get about a week of downtime in early July, and then it's not going to stop until like October. So
Pretty much.
yeah.
Generally speaking, that's kind of how that goes.
Yeah. So I guess this is episode 1 of this year's holy crap news all the time. Whatever you want to call it.
Episode
But,
1 of You Get to Drink from the Fire Hose.
Yeah, pretty much. Anywho, well, let's get into it. Google I.O. That's a thing. It happens. And I think the best person to really lead this charge for talking about it, all the cool stuff that's happening, Landon, I think you need to take over this right here.
Yes. Now, I want to preface this by saying I think they need a name change to Google I.O. and just change it to Google AI because
I mean, how many times did they say that?
oh my gosh, if it was a drinking game, you'd be dead. And that's if you're just drinking water.
Well, I was going to say, that's just drinking water. Imagine
You
if you were to get drunk.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, this thing, there was AI all over the place. Like
Oh my goodness.
even before the show. So I didn't watch it live, but I watched the replay of it, and the replay was showing 2.5 hours. I'm like, wow, that's pretty hefty keynote. But the first 30 minutes, like I turn it on, there's a countdown. I'm like, and it's like 30 minutes. Like, why would they leave a 30-minute countdown on their video for this? That doesn't make any sense. And then about 5 minutes into that, it shows the stage, and this guy comes out. I don't even remember the guy's name. There's some DJ of some, I don't know what he does. He does music of some sort. And he comes out and he says he's been working with Google with his AI stuff and creating AI-generated music and all this. I'm like, okay. And then he starts playing some, and it wasn't my cup of tea. I'll say that. Although, actually, I will say it was my cup of tea because I think tea is not very good. So,
Nice.
like, it was different. It wasn't bad. It was just not my style of music, but it was interesting to say the least. And he went on for about 15, 20 minutes or so. And then it went back to the countdown. And then it eventually got into, the regular I.O., which was about 2 hours long. And hopefully I don't take 2 hours to talk about it because I just don't want to.
Guess you could say AI in a quarter of the amount.
I mean,
Yeah, just
Well, I think, I mean, yeah, I don't
Maybe
know. When
just-
I was
just
listening
say-
to it,
just say the A. That'll like cut the time in half. Then you don't have to say both letters.
remove
No,
all
I
the
think-
eyes.
I think the reason why they did this, obviously, I think is because of being in the AI that they've had the news for the longest time. So I
Yeah.
think this was kind of Google's thing to just be like, listen, every other word, just AI, please, just
It's like
let people know AI.
prove to the investors that we are focused on this.
Yeah, kind of a, yeah.
Which is bizarre because anybody who's been paying attention for the past, like, I don't know, 5 years, Google has been the most paying attention to AI and implementing it in stuff that's actually useful out of anybody
Yes.
for the past 5 years. And
That
then
makes
suddenly ChatGPT happened and now Microsoft is there. It's
Yes.
like they just barely got into this game. Google invented this game. What the heck?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I was going to get into this a little later, but this is a good transition because, like Caleb said, Google has been in the AI business for a long time, and they've been
Yeah.
talking about it for a long. It's not like they've been hiding it like Apple. I mean, Apple has been using AI as well for a long time. It's just not as talked about. Like if you take a picture with your phone, no matter what phone it is, you're using AI. You know, it's just. If you search for a photo inside of Apple Photos or Google Photos, you're using AI. It's there. You just don't realize it. Whereas now ChatGPT has kind of brought it to the forefront, and now everyone that has been using AI is like, oh yeah, we use this too. And now they're just saying it's AI. Whereas before they just said, here's a cool little feature that, is there and whatever.
Which is just so funny because, like, when was the first time you remember Apple talking about the neural engine in their processors? Like, the reason the neural engine exists is to accelerate AI-based algorithms.
Yes.
That's what it does. That's its whole deal. They have an API called AI Kit that is literally there for people making apps on Apple devices to tap into the neural engine and use it for their AI-powered stuff. Now, I will say that Apple has been using their AI stuff mostly, like they use AI to train algorithms that then run on post-processing for your photos and videos and doing, voice translation for when you do voice searches and stuff like that, managing Spotlight and stuff like that in the background. And they don't do anything even close to the level of AI implementation that Google and now Microsoft do. And rumor has it they are trying to catch up and it's going very badly. And I'm kind of loving that. Like I want to see them launch a Siri powered chat something. I want to see it.
Can you imagine?
It would be so bad.
Can you imagine if they put an image generator into Siri, what you would get?
Yes. Oh, I want it. I want it so bad. Like listener, you've got to understand, right? Because we're talking about this stuff that is powered Siri, the search results and the replies and stuff you get from all of the assistants are powered by AI, right? Like that's how it's always been. And Google has always historically been the best at this. Microsoft is now giving them some competition. And that, like Landon said, that's why they're talking about it so much in this event. But like Siri was the first one there. And she's so consistently the worst ever since Microsoft got rid of Cortana.
Yeah.
That it is just like, it would be so amazing to see Siri try to do some of the stuff that Bard and Bing are now doing. Like, oh, I want it so badly to happen.
Yeah. Along those lines, like, I mean, yes, Microsoft has implemented ChatGPT into Bing, but as we talk about what Google is doing, I think Google is implementing AI better, which to me is kind of to be expected because, again, they've been doing this for a long time. But the way they're implementing this stuff into their software is awesome and extremely helpful. And like they're using it as a tool, the way this stuff should be used. Like they're putting it into docs, they're putting it into sheets, they're putting it into like, what's their PowerPoint thing? I can't remember, but
Slides.
Slides. That's what it's called. They're
I
putting
don't-
it into
is it actually called slides? I have
I
no
think it
idea.
is.
I was just guessing. I
But-
mean, that makes sense. Docs, sheets, slides.
Yeah. But they're making it like extremely useful and and it all talks together. Obviously, all this software you can collaborate between different things and with other people. And then what they're doing inside of search also, I think, is more helpful than what just a generic, not that ChatGPT is a generic, AI type thing, but for lack of a better term, it kind of is.
What Google's doing is more focused.
Yes.
Like ChatGPT is like a general conversationalist
Yeah.
that can also search the internet, I guess. But Google is being much more deliberate, much more focused about their implementations. It's kind of harkens back to what we've talked about before, where Microsoft has everything to gain from this. Google has everything to lose.
Yes.
So they're going to be taking what honestly is probably kind of the more mature, measured, adult approach to this, whereas Microsoft can kind of just do the fun, wacky, exciting stuff and throw everything at the wall, and whatever sticks is going to make them more money than they were making before. So
Yeah.
it's not a bad thing for them.
Yeah. Which is interesting because it's kind of the tables have kind of turned a little bit. They've kind of flipped roles in a way, because Google used to be that. Let's throw something out and see how it works.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
Microsoft was way more coordinated and okay, this has to actually work properly before we implement it, because businesses rely on us. We can't go screwing things up. Whereas now it's we'll just throw it into Bing because nobody uses it anyways. And now Bing has gotten a lot more traffic in the last month because of this. And it was smart. Whereas Google is okay, we have to not screw this up.
Yep.
We can't have it come out and do what Bing's AI did, where it's getting all racist and sexist and all sorts of crap
And
immediately.
proposing to journalists and then threatening to kill their spouses and so on and so forth.
We can't
I
have it
guess
do
I
that.
didn't see that. Holy cow.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
No.
Well,
crap,
I guess
went down.
the ChatGPT thing was not necessarily it proposing to somebody. It did do that. It tried to get some journalist to leave his wife and that type of thing.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
I was talking more about Microsoft's first jump into this when it went on. They put a bot on Twitter and it just went.
yeah.
That one.
Okay,
Yep,
yep.
that one was.
That was
yeah.
bad.
If Google were to bring out a product that did that, that would be bad, really bad. Whereas Microsoft can kind of get away from it because obviously people forgot about that.
Yeah. Well, and it's that part of their business doesn't really.
Yeah.
Their bread and butter is enterprise software, right? And this is not even distantly related to that. These consumer facing chatbots and stuff like that. No relationship. Whereas Google's bread and butter is consumer facing search.
Yeah.
And they do enterprise stuff for business, but honestly, their enterprise business stuff, they can kind of afford to just throw crap at the wall because it's so much less in scale than Microsoft's.
Yep.
So yeah, it's that's traditionally been the dynamic between Google and Microsoft, is that Microsoft was always much more measured, much more deliberate, and Google was always a little bit more experimental and crazy and wacky. But with this new AI stuff, as it appears to the consumer, it focuses on the consumer. In fact, Google has to take this a lot more seriously than Microsoft does, because that's their entire bottom line.
Yep.
Whereas Microsoft is does Microsoft turn a profit off of Bing? I doubt it. I really doubt it.
I have no clue. I should look into that to see, maybe ads? I don't know.
Maybe, but that's
especially
slim maybe.
Especially when you get people like you guys that are using Bing rewards to pay for Xbox Cloud
for Game
gaming.
Pass. Yeah, they're literally losing money on me. I swear they can't possibly be making money off of me.
Well, ads. Well, I don't know.
It's
I don't
they
know.
make some money from the searches that I do, but it can't possibly be enough to balance the fact that I get a $15 a month service for free, basically perpetually.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
I will say I want Google to start working on that, because I haven't had a survey in Google survey for money in a month or two.
Really?
So
I still get them
get
all
on
the
that,
time.
Google. I don't get them very much.
You need to search in Google more so that they know more about you.
The only time that I get something is like, hey, on a random day that you need to tell us, did you go by that gas station?
Yeah, they're
Those are the
tracking
ones I get.
maps on your phone.
I mean, I do get those, but like Caleb said, the ones that I get the most are, did you just search for this inside of Google? Why, yes, I did. Is this what you were looking for?
Okay, that's it, because I don't use Google.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's
Because
the key.
I'm actually getting more over it being
Yeah,
they're
I
giving me
used
more.
to use the Google Survey app, but then I switched the default browser on my iPhone to DuckDuckGo, and it just evaporated like nothing was in the app. I'm like, oh, right. That's fair. And so I just deleted it because I decided that I'd rather use DuckDuckGo and not get the occasional 5 cents from Google than get 5 cents from Google and have them make however much money off of my data they were making.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get it. Yep.
All right. Well, let's get into what was talked about at I.O. I can't say other than AI because, like I said, it was all AI.
Basically.
Now, I'll just go in order of how they covered things because it kind of flows. I don't know. Google's their keynotes are very interesting. They jump around all over the place and they go back to other, things and whatnot, but it does have some sense of flow to it still, even though it's all over. It's weird.
Maybe that's the DJ they should have hired was the guys that did jump around. Jump
really
up and
should
get down.
That would have been very entertaining.
Crap, what is that name? We should know that name.
We should. I don't know. Anyways.
Oh my goodness.
Well, you should look that up while I'm talking about this. Anyways, so the first thing they talked about, so Sundar Pichai came out and he was just kind of giving his little spiel about what's happening with Google. And he did cover a few things that are going to be coming to products in the future. And he started with Gmail. They're going to have this part on Gmail that says it's basically a help me write type section where you can say, help me write an email that I'm asking for a promotion for my boss or something like that, or, something along those lines. And it'll write you a basic draft of what that could sound like. And you can make it more elaborate or less elaborate if you want. You can have it be just a paragraph or two, or you can make it be like a 5-page essay if you really want it for some reason. And then you can go in, obviously you'd want to go into it and tweak it to make it fit you better, but it'll give you basically a template of what you're looking for to write, which is, like I said, they're implementing this AI stuff as very useful and beneficial tools and features into these products. So that's going to be coming to Gmail. And then he went into Maps and he talked about this new thing that's called Immersive View. And it reminded me a lot of what Apple does with their Maps feature where you can, I can't remember what Apple calls it. Is it 3D view? I don't know. Where you can go down and you can see buildings and whatnot. But this is it gives you, for lack of a better term, a 3D bird's eye view of your route. So if you want to map out where you're going, you can go down. It doesn't put you on the street. You can do street view for that, obviously. But it kind of puts you slightly above, and you can maneuver your way through what your route is going to be. So if say it's a hike or something, they used a biking trail in San Francisco along the road. So it kind of shows you where you want to go and stuff like that. And then it actually had cars driving on the road. It was kind of cool looking. And they said this is coming to 15 cities later this year. I didn't get a list of the cities. They mentioned New York and San Francisco and Chicago and stuff like that. So obviously bigger cities, probably mostly in the U.S., but that will be coming later this year. Then he went into photos, and we all know about Magic Eraser, and it's really cool. It does really cool things. I've actually started using it recently because I signed up for a Google One account. So on my iPhone, I now have access to Magic Eraser. I've used it. It works well. It's really nice, especially for, just random little things. There was one picture of me and my wife in Hawaii with someone in the back photobombing our picture. And I finally went back and I was able to delete that guy completely out of the picture. So now it's just me and my wife on the beach and it looks really nice. So cool feature. But now they're implementing this thing called Magic Editor. And basically the way I'm putting it is it's AI Photoshop. So the way it works is like you can do more than just what Magic Eraser could do. It doesn't just take things out of the background or, little things here and there. Like the one thing that they showed off was someone had taken a picture of their kid sitting on a bench holding a big bundle of balloons. And the kid wasn't centered in the picture, and the balloons were kind of cut off on one side. So what they did is they kind of circled that area, pulled it to the center. It added, it made the bench longer, moved the kid and the balloons into the middle, and then the balloons that were cut off, it kind of filled in those gaps and made the balloons it had full balloons there, whereas before it was
added more, yeah.
half a balloon. It was really cool. You could tell, if you were looking at it closely, you could tell that it was, fixed and tweaked a little bit. The bench didn't fully match exactly what it was. You could tell where it first ended and then where it elongated itself, basically.
Yeah.
But it still looked really good. For social media or something like that, really cool feature. And they also showed off one picture where this lady, I can't remember where the picture was taken, in some national park somewhere, but she had this over the shoulder bag going across and whatnot, and they didn't want the bag anymore, so they took the bag and just deleted the bag, and it filled in her jacket that she had and made it look like she didn't have the bag anymore. And stuff that Magic Eraser can't do on its own. This is
right.
Full on, like I said, AI Photoshop, basically. Really cool. It's obviously not going to replace full on editing photos that you want to do yourself, but for the person that doesn't know how to do any of that stuff, I think it's a really cool feature. They did not say if this is going to be a Pixel exclusive or a Google One subscription exclusive or anything like that. They just said it's coming later this year. I'm sure when it actually gets talked about and announced, they'll mention how you can get it, where it's available. I would imagine that potentially this is going to be announced at the Pixel 8 launch in October. And I could also see it being a Pixel exclusive for the first little while because they want to sell more phones, and that's one way to do it. That's why they had Magic Eraser as a Pixel exclusive for a while. So I could see that happening, but it was a really cool feature. And then he talked a little bit about how they are trying to make AI helpful for everyone. And they have 4 different ways that they're trying to do this. And they said they're trying to improve knowledge and learning, boost creativity and productivity, enable others to innovate, so developers and creators and whatnot, and then build and deploy responsibly. That was a big, big push and focus inside of this keynote, was trying to implement AI responsibly, kind of like what we were saying before. Yep. Google has everything to lose here. So they don't want this AI stuff to just go off the rails and be, crazy and talk all sorts of nonsense. They're trying to make this as not held back, but for lack of a better term, safe as it can be, basically. So
the appearance of controlled AI.
Yes. And in what they showed off, it appears they're doing that well. But again, once all this hits the public, that's when people are going to test the limits of this. That's always what the case is. That's how we got what happened with ChatGPT inside of Bing to do what it did.
Hey, can I interrupt real fast
with
a return report? So we talked about Jump Around, the artist that did that. Their name is House of Pain.
That's right.
To make us feel old, they just did a 30-year re-recording of that song. That came out in 1992.
Nice.
I just wanted you guys to really feel that. Feel that one. Because I felt bad when I looked it up and it said, hey, we did a 30-year re-recording. I was like, oh my goodness. 1992. You're welcome. House of Pain. Jump Around.
Yeah.
Anywho, sorry if I had to derail that.
No, that was a fine stopping point. So, the next thing they were talking about, they talked a lot about future AI products that are for developers, which makes sense. This is a developer keynote. Now, I'm not going to get into all the developer stuff because I'm not a developer. Wes is not a developer. Caleb is not a developer. And listener, you might be a developer. And if you are, you can go and watch these things.
Yeah, if
because
you are, get your developer news from somewhere else, please. Like,
we're not going to do that.
if you've ever
listened
heard
to any of these episodes,
like, come on. Half of everything I say about software development, I am just pulling out of my butt. Like, let's be honest.
Yes.
I know exactly enough to say the things that I've said, but if it sounds, listener, like I am not saying everything I know, that's not true.
Literally saying everything about developing that I do know.
It's true. There's nothing beyond that.
All right. Now, the next thing they talked about was Bard, and they've brought some different updates to Bard to make it a little bit better. Now they did the first thing they mentioned is now Bard can help you with coding. Now, this is something that ChatGPT has been able to do, but now they've implemented this into Bard, so that's pretty cool. And it worked. I think they said that it works with 20 different coding languages.
yeah,
Wow.
I think it said 20.
And
Solid.
yeah. And you can also easily export stuff from Bard, including code, into Gmail if you want to send it to someone, or to Docs. And like they even showed off this thing where it's like, okay, I have this code. I want you to find anything that's needs to be tweaked. Also make notes of it in Korean. And so it found the little things that needed to be tweaked. It put notes about what was there in English and in Korean, so that this person, the example was this person works with somebody in Korea that is helping them with the code. So they did this, and then they were able to export it into a Gmail or into an email, and then email the person about it. So it was really cool, and it worked really fast, really easily, really nice. Also, this got a surprisingly loud cheer, but Dark Theme is now available in Bard. So, and you can turn this on manually, or it will just work with whatever your device software is set to. Which
that's how you know it's a developer conference. Like
Right.
no group of people on the planet is more enthused about dark mode in software than developers. They all sit in dark rooms all the time with their computer screen on and no other lights, and so like the dimmer the computer screen, the better. They're all so much happier about that.
Yes, and it to be fair, it does make sense because code. A lot of searching through code, finding things that are wrong with it is based on color, and it's a lot easier to find those colors on a black background than it is on a white background.
Well, and I mean, it means that you're staring, like if you're doing it in a traditional text editor, the way things were back in the day, you spend 100% of the time staring at a white background, like in a word processor or something. But I will say, like, I'm a professional writer. All of my writing I do is against a white background, and that really the only difference is it means you have to be in a well-lit room in order to avoid eye strain. So I think that honestly, and this is coming to me live right now, listener, the reason that this matters so much to developers specifically is that professional writers were still using typewriters to do all of their writing back when coders started coding. And at that time, computer displays were all text-based only. There were no graphics, and they were all monochrome.
Yep.
Which meant it was a black background with text on top of it that was usually green.
Yep.
That's where all of the original coders learned how to code, and I will bet that that's why, to this day, every coder on the planet prefers dark mode in their software. Like, there's definitely a correlation there.
Yes, I can definitely see that. That makes a whole lot of sense. And I also am one of these people that prefers dark mode. Like, I've got dark mode turned on my phone, on my computer. Like, pretty much everything I use is in dark mode. There are a few things that I've switched over to light mode just because it does look a little better. But almost everything I use is dark mode because I like that. But that's me.
And I mean, I've got the system default behavior, meaning that at sunset, everything goes to dark mode.
Right.
And like, I prefer that. It kind of helps me like prep my brain for bedtime and stuff like that a little bit better. So, but I'm no coder. I'm not like over here like Audacity, for instance, which is up on my computer screen right now. That doesn't have dark mode, and it's not bugging the crap out of me or anything like that. So I use dark mode, but I never will get as excited about dark mode as a programmer.
Yeah, and that's understandable. All right, so going on to some of the new tools that are going to be coming into Bard in the future sometime. They didn't really mention when, but you will now be able to bring images into, or it will, like if you're asking for different things, if you're asking about locations, it will bring images of those locations into the results coming in from Bard. So kind of combining what Google search does, but inside of Bard. They also said they're going to be bringing Google Lens into Bard as well. So you can take a picture of something. Like the example they showed was someone had taken a picture of their dogs, and they basically put it into Bard and said, make a meme out of this. And it was able to analyze what kind of dogs they were based on Google Lens can do that type of thing. And then it gave a bunch of different captions that you could choose from of what you wanted your meme to say about this picture. So that's kind of cool. I'm sure you could do more than that with Google Lens, because Google Lens is a pretty powerful piece of software. You add it, which also is AI, but if you add Bard to that, it can do, who knows, it could be pretty cool. It can also, based on if you're looking for locations, it can bring Google Maps into Bard and give you different things in there if you want it to. It can show different options. Like if it has, like say if it gives you a potential, like for lack of a better term, a list of different things, it can export that into a list into sheets or docs and organize it for you and have it just really nice and clean all ready for you to go. So like you don't have to, okay, you search for this, here's a list of different things. Okay, I'll type this into here and make this like this category. It'll do all that for you, which is really nice. And they did say they are partnering with different companies to use their software inside of Bard. So they're kind of making an API for Bard, basically, that people can use this and make it work a little better. And one of those that they showed off was they're going to be using Adobe Firefly to generate photos. And it was, I can't remember exactly what photo they showed or what they did with it, but it was an AI generated photo. So it was unique, to say the least.
Yeah. Right.
Also, they have taken the waitlist off of Bard. So if you want to start using Bard, you can now do that without having to wait however long you would have had to before. Like when I did it, I waited about 2 or 3 days is all before I got on. But now that waitlist is gone. So if you want to try it out, bard.google.com is where you go to test it out. Currently, like I tried I asked it to make a photo and it still couldn't do that. So like I said, these new tools that are coming to Bard are coming to Bard. They didn't say when. So just keep an eye out for that. It'll happen sometime in the future. I'm sure it'll happen within the next month or two, because like this stuff it progresses really fast with all the different things that are coming to this AI stuff. All right. The next portion that they talked about was about Workspace. So obviously they're adding lots of AI generating into Workspace. The biggest thing that they had there was creating templates off of a prompt that you want to give it, kind of like that one that I mentioned with Gmail, but this also works inside of Sheets and Docs and Slides. Like this person, the one that they showed off was this person had made a slideshow inside of Google Slides, and they asked it to give talking points for each slide. Basically, like as you're giving the presentation, it'll give you a little note to base what you're saying off of it. And it did that it was about a 10 slide presentation, I think is what it was. And it gave all the different talking points that you would have needed, like little notes here on each slide. And as you went through it, it was organized how you already needed it. And it was really cool. Now, you can try out these new features that said at google.com/labs. I think there is a waitlist for that. So if you have a Google Workspace account, whether it's a business account or a personal Workspace account, you can go to Labs and get on the waitlist to try this out. I've signed up to try this out because these features looked really cool. I'm still waiting for that, but it is there for you to try out if you want.
Cool.
Now, on to search. Basically, the biggest thing I got out of this is you can ask more specific questions and it will give you more details that you are looking for. So rather, like Google search already, like if you knew how to type in certain search queries, it could give you a lot of information. But it's a matter of knowing how to type those things in. Like this part is in parentheses, this is in quotations, and this
Right.
such and such. And I, even myself, never really learned how to do that properly because I just didn't care. But now it's basically like you can just ask a question and get more specific and more specific as you want as you're going on. And it will take those and organize it for you and then give you the search results based on that, where before you had to have it formatted a certain way. Now it's basically just, I need to find this. I need to find restaurants in this area that give me this option or this option or this option. And then it can do all that. And it's really cool. It also does still give you the regular search results that you're used to inside of Google, just like slightly below. Like it's got a little section right at the top that you can expand and it'll show the AI search results there for you. Or you can scroll past that and just do it as you normally would through Google search if you want to do it the hard way, I guess. So they're trying to make this a lot more easy for you. So, and then they've also made Google search more conversational. So you can ask follow-up questions. And there is a button there that you have to push. I think they said it was conversation mode. And then you can ask follow-up questions about what you just searched for. Basically kind of how you can already do inside of Google Assistant, but a little more in-depth and inside of Google search instead of going to Google Assistant to do this. And like I said before, I think this is, like these type of things are, in my opinion, the best way to implement this generative AI into products, like into search, into docs, like this type of thing. Like they're basically making this AI as it should be used as a tool to help you do what you need to do, and then you go in and make it better. So it's just a starting, gives you a really good starting point. Whereas like before, I mean, Microsoft Word and Google Docs, they all have these templates that you can base things off of, but it gives you a template and then a blank sheet of nothing, basically.
Yeah.
Like it gives you a layout and that's about it. Whereas this can actually give you, talking points like in that presentation, or write an email for you that you just need to go in and tweak a few things here and there, make it more personalized. And I really like that. I think this is the way that we need to be using this AI type stuff in the future. And this is, I mean, we've been talking about this for a while. Like some people have complained, well, students are just going to have ChatGPT write their essays for them. It's like the dumb ones maybe. And teachers are going to realize, okay, this was obviously not written by this kid because one, it sounds a little smarter than they probably are. And two, there's a major...
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make sense. Yeah, there's just things here that are like, okay, that doesn't make sense, but this is really good, but this, no. So it's like, yes, you can use these things as a tool, as a starting point to get you going where you need to go.
Like, honestly, the smart students they will go, write me an essay about whatever and give it some details and stuff. It'll spit out an essay. They'll go through the thing using their understanding of the topic that they already have and cherry pick all the best bits and phrases out of it and compile them into something that actually does make sense.
Yeah.
They'll get an incredibly flowery, super smooth essay out the other end, but they did all the work of writing it. They basically just used an AI to help them. Like it was just a fast and automatic thesaurus pretty much. Like It's not a problem. And if I were a teacher, I honestly wouldn't care about that. That would be fine.
Yeah. It's like if you're using this properly as a starting point, like, and then make it your own, it's fine. And like the next thing they talked about was responsible AI. And I mean, Microsoft has implemented this and Google is obviously implementing this, but Google has said they're going to be adding watermarks and metadata to any AI generated images. Like if you search for something and it pulls up an AI generated image, it will have that metadata and watermarks on it. The problem I have with that is watermarks can be easily removed by just cropping the photo for one, and metadata can also be very easily removed and then re-upload that picture for other purposes. So I get what they're doing, but I think more is going to have to be done when it comes to that type of thing before it's really, for lack of a better term, safe. I mean, right now, AI-generated images are pretty obvious. You can tell there's definite things that you can notice about it that's like, okay, that's not real. But some people just glance at it and think, oh, that's an interesting image, and then go on to the next one, But that's something that they are trying to do. And obviously, like I said, Microsoft is also doing things like that to help with this. And it'll get better and more detailed in the future. Another thing that Google said is they're going to be showing source data and where these images have been used and shown in the past. So, like if this image has been used in different articles or whatnot, then you can easily see where it's been, and you can see, okay, this article says this is fake, and this article says it's fake, so it must be not a real picture or something like that. And then source data is obviously very key to have when you're doing text generation, because I mean, you need source data because you're not just going to be pulling this crap out of your head in most cases, especially if you're using this for school. You need to have citations. So having the source data there is beneficial as well. All right, now that's all the stuff that they talked about when it comes to AI into their software, like into this type of software that most people are going to be using on a regular basis. Now they moved on to the Android side of things, and they were the two things that they talked the most about when it comes to AI was Android as an ecosystem, and then as using it for expression, so personalization, stuff like that. So on the ecosystem side, when it comes to Android, the first thing they mentioned was Find My Device. So this is basically like Find My on iOS. And now they're basically turning it into what iOS does. So the way Find My works on iOS is your devices can talk to other iOS devices without giving like your data to those other devices. It just kind of uses location data and whatnot. And that is how you're able to find where your phone may have been left behind, or an AirTag, or a computer, or something like that. That's how that works. So basically, Android is making that work with other Android phones. So every Android phone is going to now work the same way that iOS does, which is really helpful. Makes the Find My Device feature a lot more beneficial. And the next thing they talked about was unknown tracker alerts. So if there's a tracker that's now not associated with your device or your account, and it's been following you for a while, basically if someone were to put a tile or an AirTag or something in your backpack and is trying to follow you or know where you're going, it will let you know about this. And they have actually partnered with Apple. This was actually announced about a week ago before I.O. that they've partnered with Apple to make this work across devices. They didn't talk about this. I'm hoping that Apple, I don't see them doing this, but I'm hoping that Apple will make it so you can use an AirTag with an Android device. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, probably not.
That would be, this does make it so that is possible, but I don't necessarily see that fully happening. But kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I believe they've also worked with Tile and other tracker devices like this to implement this into Android and with iOS.
The funniest thing about this to me, funny. It's a good thing. I'm happy they're doing this. Like, Apple has done some good things with trying to make it safe to use, or basically making AirTags safe, which is great.
Yeah.
But traditionally, you have to have an iPhone in order to be safe, and that's not awesome.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're partnering up with Google to make sure that if you have a smartphone and somebody's trying to track you with an AirTag, you're gonna be notified about it. That's great. I'm really happy about that. But it is funny to me that this is a thing now. This is a problem we're having now, despite the fact that Tile has existed for ages.
Yeah.
Like absolute ages. And the reason is just because the Tile network was never very good.
And Tile could only work with other Tile devices. And that was always the problem. Like, it didn't work with other phones. It didn't work with, with Android or with iOS. I mean, you could use it with these devices, obviously, but it didn't, connect the way that Apple AirTags do. Or the way now it will with Android and iOS.
Right.
So,
and there was a feature that Tile introduced a year or two before Apple launched the AirTag that created a network that made it so that any Tile device that was within range of the Tile network would be able to phone home to somebody who was not within range, right? You didn't have to be within Bluetooth range of your device in order to find it. It's just that the only devices in the network were people that had the Tile app installed on their phone and this feature turned on. So it was so this was, you couldn't stalk somebody with Tile. It wasn't an option. It didn't work, but the AirTags are very different and iOS is everywhere. So it does work pretty well with that.
Yeah. And I kind of don't want to bring this up, but at the same time, I've heard it in other podcasts, other people have, anytime this gets brought up, they're like, it's funny because you can find cheaper and easier ways to track people.
It's true.
It's unfortunate, but it's true.
Can.
Like, if you really want to track someone, you can find ways to do that other than AirTags or Tiles or, things like that.
Yeah. But the people that are doing it are the people that are the people that are trying to just stalk somebody, like the creeps, really. That don't have some kind of big malicious plan, right? They're just psychopaths. Those folks, they lack imagination and commitment. So AirTags are way easier for them. It's just $20, $25 for this thing, toss it in their backpack. I'm a genius. I'm like a super spy, whatever. No, the actual super spies have been tracking people and with using way simpler and commodity devices for literally decades. You're not at that level. So Landon is right, but it does usually require a little bit more inventiveness, a little bit more creativity, and a little bit more commitment than the average stalker has.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm glad that Apple and Google are doing this. This is a good thing. And the reason why it's so prevalent now is, like Caleb said, Apple is it's a giant ecosystem, and a lot of people have iPhones, and so it makes it a lot not easier, but easier for most people to get into this type of thing.
Yeah.
So, and because it's Apple, it's gonna be talked about. It's like, oh, I found an AirTag on me that I didn't buy. Of course, it's an Apple product, so it's going to make the news. Apple is out there. Everyone knows Apple, so they're going to talk about it. So, I'm glad that they're doing this, and I hope that it works as well as they want it to. So, that'll be nice. All right. Now, the next thing they talked about was the expression part of Android, and basically making it more personal in different ways. And one thing that they introduced was this thing called Magic Compose inside of Messages. So this is inside of Google Messages, but it was really interesting. So the way that they showed it off is you can type a message as you normally would, but then you can choose how you want it to sound. And some of the examples were if you wanted to make it sound more excited or more chill or relaxed, or even if you want to make it sound like Shakespeare wrote this out, that's an option. So, the example they gave is, hey, you want to go to dinner tonight? And they clicked Shakespeare, and it totally made it sound like, Shakespeare wrote someone saying, "Hey, do you want to go to dinner night?" It wasn't those words, obviously, but
Yeah.
it was interesting. The next thing they showed off was a more customizable lock screen. Basically, very similar to what you can do on iOS now, which is weird that
Yeah. So what is
like
That's
Google
never
is
happened
copying Apple when it comes to customization. Never thought I'd see the day, but it's there. Now, there are more options than what Apple presents in customizing lock screen, but it's very similar, like changing the text of the
Yeah.
clock and different things like that. It reminded me a lot of what it's like on iOS. But again, really, really cool. I like it. Always nice to have more customization with your devices. The next thing they showed off was customizing the wallpaper with emoji. Now, when they first said that, I'm like, why would anybody want to do this? That just sounds really weird. But then the example they gave actually looks pretty good. So basically what it does is you go in, you want to pick a wallpaper, you can pick the emoji wallpaper, you select whichever emoji you want to use. He picked like 5 or 6 different ones, and then you select the color style that you wanted to be in. So it had a different background, whereas the emoji, it didn't show them in their normal colors. It was like kind of an outline of it. And then, so it had the background one color, and then the emoji were a complementary color on top of it, and you could change the different colors that you wanted. And then you can zoom in or out to make the emoji really big or really small, and it patterns it in a different way. And then you can set your wallpaper for that. And then it's basically a live wallpaper as well. So you can tap on the different emoji, and they kind of shake and do different things as you tap on them. It was kind of fun. It's not something I would necessarily do, but it didn't look nearly as bad as I was expecting it to look when he first mentioned it. So,
Yeah.
but that's a new option. They also implemented this thing called cinematic wallpaper. Now, listener, I don't know if you know what a cinematic photo is. Something that they've been doing inside of Google Photos for a while. Basically, like if you go into Google Photos, it has like at the very top of it, it's got sections like showing different photos of like different events that happened in the past, like just reminders basically. And it'll have cinematic photos where it kind of looks like things are moving in the photo. It almost looks like a little video type thing. It works pretty well with most photos, but now they give the option to be able to basically do this in your wallpaper. And it uses the gyroscope in your phone, so when you're turning the phone one way or another, it kind of moves the photo around in a cinematic photo style. And it was kind of cool. It's not something that I would really use because, like, I didn't really like when my wallpaper would move as I did that already. So I turned that off just right off the bat. It was kind of a cool little, hey, look what my phone could do type of feature when it first was announced. And I can imagine that this is probably the same thing. It's like, cool, look at my wallpaper. The person's moving in my wallpaper. Like, wow, that's neat. Turn it off immediately.
Oh man, the people that get excited about that all bought Fire phones. There's like
gosh.
10 of them in the world.
I played with a Fire phone, and it was an experience. I would never buy one, but it was an experience to say the least.
It was a cool gimmick, but that's all it was.
Yes, that phone was a gimmick. Kind of like the Facebook phone, a gimmick. Another one that I got to play with as well, and oof, that was. Anyways,
That was a
moving on.
gimmick.
Yeah. And that they did say that cinematic wallpaper feature will be coming first to Pixel devices next month. So probably in the next Pixel feature drop that they usually do, we'll have that cinematic wallpaper. I don't know if the emoji wallpaper is going to be coming to that as well. It might be. All this wallpaper stuff might come as a package deal, which would make sense. But that should be coming to Pixel devices next month, and then potentially come into Android in general in the future, but as of now, just Pixel devices. All right, the next wallpaper feature they mentioned was a generative AI wallpaper. So, of course, basically you can, like, the way it works is they have a pre-written sentence kind of that you can implement, or you can put your own words. So you give it a scene and a style that you want, and it'll generate different options based on what you said. So if you want a wallpaper of a cat climbing a tree in the style of, I don't know, some artist or whatever, some different genre of painting. You can do that, and it'll give you a few different options to choose from, and then you can pick it. So basically, they were saying this makes your wallpaper now is extremely unique to you, because no other person is going to have that exact wallpaper, which you could probably do that before. But it's just making it even more customizable. And I thought that was kind of a cool little feature that they had, but it wasn't like, I don't know. It's, again, not, I don't know how often I would use that, but I could see people using it. It was kind of cool. And that generative AI thing will be coming this fall. So that's probably more of a Android, like the new version of Android type thing, whereas the other stuff is just, it can be implemented right now. And that was all of the software stuff that Google talked about at I.O. this year. A lot of stuff.
Yeah. A lot of AI.
Yo, all the AI. And then after that, they moved on to hardware, because this is, as I can't remember who said it, but this is kind of becoming a tradition with hardware at Google I.O. And the traditional hardware at I.O. is the A series of phones. And so that's the first thing they talked about was the Pixel 7a.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to go over the specs on this thing. It has the Google Tensor G2 chip in it, so the current chip that's in the Pixel 7 phones. It's got a 6.1-inch OLED display that can go at either 60 hertz or 90 hertz refresh rate. And from what I've seen, it is 60 hertz out of the box. You have to go in and change it to 90 hertz, but it does have that option, whereas before it was only 60 hertz. So there's an upgrade there. It's got 8 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of storage, a 4,385 milliamp hour battery. And then the cameras have been updated as well. These are not the same cameras that have been on the A series for the last forever, basically. The main camera, the main rear camera, is a 64 megapixel sensor, and then it's got a 13 megapixel ultra wide sensor, and then a 13 megapixel 95 degree sensor on the front. So just the two sensors there. But what the brief hands-on videos that I've seen of this thing, it does, I mean, it's a Google phone with a Google camera implemented into it. It takes pretty good pictures. It doesn't have that zoom lens that a lot of people might want, but the ultra wide is really nice, and the regular sensor, like the pictures that were coming out of this, looked really good. So nothing to really complain about there. Let's see, it does have 18-watt fast wired charging, and for the first time in an A series, wireless charging. But it is only 5-watt wireless charging, so it's not super fast, but the way I charge my phone generally, especially wireless, like if I'm using a wireless charger, it's overnight or while I'm sleeping. So I don't need it to be super fast while I'm doing that. So, but it is nice that it is there. Most people coming to this may not care because, again, if they've had an A series phone in the past, they haven't had wireless charging. They're going to be plugging it in most likely anyways. This one is also IP67 water and dust resistant, so not quite as high as most of your flagships at IP68, but still better than nothing. Not going to complain too much there. And then the price on this thing is $499, so it went up $50, which it's unfortunate. It would have been great if this would have stayed at that $450, because the problem I see with this is you can get a Pixel 7 with better specs, a better display. You know, it's not like enormously better, but I mean, you can get the Pixel 7 Pro or what? Yeah, that's what it's called, right? Pro Plus? I don't know.
Pro.
The nicer one. And it's going to be immensely better than this one. It's got the better camera, it's got the telephoto lens, it's got a way better display. But you can get the regular Pixel 7 at starting price is $699 or $599. Sorry, $599. And if you're paying that much for it, you shouldn't be, because you can get it on sale regularly most places for even $499. So, I mean, this one has a slightly smaller display, so it's a little smaller footprint. So, not much, though. It's like hardly at all. So, I mean, if you want the slightly smaller phone, then maybe go for this one. But it's hard to justify this at this price. I mean, now they do have phones at multiple price points that are all good phones, but that's only if you're paying full price for these phones, which you really shouldn't be. I don't fully get it. I mean, is the wireless charging and the newer cameras really worth the $50 price rise, Google, and the 120 or the 90 hertz refresh rate? I mean, I don't know. It's strange to me.
You know, though, the thing that really teased me off is that this is a $500 phone that is in almost every measurable way superior to the iPhone 14. The only thing where you might be able to say, oh, the iPhone 14 is better, is that technically the processor is faster.
Yeah.
However, it's not actually Apple's latest processor. Their most recent iPhone does not have their most recent mobile processor. You have to get the Pro in order to have that. And that phone costs $200 more than this one.
That is fair.
That has the latest processor Google offers in their phones. Just
Right.
friggin' Apple, hate you so much right now.
Well, I guess if you're comparing it that way, then okay, yes, this is a great deal.
Like, that's the thing. It's when they announced the Pixel 7 phones, we had this whole conversation.
Yeah.
And it kind of came down to like, Pixel phone pricing does not make any sense when you compare them to each other.
Yeah.
But when you compare them to other phones on the market, it suddenly starts making a whole ton of sense. Like, Google's all like, yeah, we can charge $500 for the 7A because by almost every possible metric, it's just a better phone than the iPhone, and it costs $200 less. It's like, yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Like, I got no argument there.
That is fair, and also the fact that, like, if you want to go with the iPhone SE, like, it's the same price, right? It's $499 for that iPhone SE.
I believe so. Yeah,
and this is going to have a higher refresh rate on the display.
It
probably
is
better cameras,
better camera, better screen, way better screen, better battery life, better design, more recent design, and considering that the processor in the SE is now 2.5 years old.
Yeah.
So technically, like 3 processors ago, that actually may be about the same term in terms of like raw performance as well. So yeah, no, I think Google has made a very good phone that is price competitive to other players on the market. When you compare it to the other Pixel phones, it's kind of like, what in the goofball snot rag are they smoking over there? But, you know, I understand why they priced it that way. They weren't pricing it against their own lineup. They're pricing it against the iPhone.
Yeah. The only problem is, like, if you're thinking about either an iPhone or a Pixel and you're looking at these price points, I still think it makes a whole lot more sense to get the regular 7.
True.
But
yeah, that's true. But I understand why they priced it. I still think maybe it doesn't make a ton of sense, but I do understand why they priced it that way.
Yeah, that is fair. That is fair. All right. Now moving on to the next bit of hardware that they talked about, the Google Pixel Fold. Now, I will say they did not announce this, but they did show it off.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, on May 4th, with a caption that said, "May the fold be with you," which, okay, Google. That's
really, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Oh,
it was interesting.
Whoa,
bad form, Peter.
That is like 2 levels of meta there, because like May 4th is only Star Wars Day because somebody thought, oh, May the 4th, that's funny. But May the Fold be with you only works for May 4th because May 4th is May the 4th be with you for Star Wars. May the Force be with you. So it's like you're very disconnected from that announcement applying to that day, Google. Like, you got like too many layers between you and Kevin Bacon. It's too much.
Yeah, it was interesting, and it's funny because it was only like 4 or 5 days before Google I/O anyways. So it's like, okay, whatever. You do you, Google. We had already seen this device anyways. If you want to get ahead of the leaks, do what you did last year at Google I/O. Last year they showed the Google or the Pixel 7 and 7 Pro. Like, show the Pixel Fold when you announced the 7 and 7 Pro, 6 months ago. Get ahead of it. Not, oh, we've already seen everything. Oh, here's the phone. No, that was dumb. Anyways, let's go on to the specs on this thing. Also has the Google Tensor G2 chip in it. It's got, on the inside, a 7.6-inch 120 hertz display, and on the outside, a 5.8-inch 1080p 120 hertz also OLED display. So both displays 120 hertz, and the outside display is actually, a usable phone size. It's 5.8-inch, so it's on the smaller side, but it looks normal, whereas Samsung's is like super skinny and tall and not something that you want to use on a regular basis. Like, this actually looks usable as a regular phone when it's folded up. Very beneficial. Good job, Google.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's got 12 gigs of RAM. It comes in storage capacities of either 256 or 512 gigs. It's got a 4,821 milliamp hour battery, so a little on the small side for how big this device is, but it's there. Camera-wise, the front camera is a 8-megapixel sensor, and it is not hidden behind the display. It's kind of it's got a cutout, so unlike Samsung's where it's like in the display and produces horrible pictures, this won't do that. The rear cameras, it's got a 48 megapixel primary sensor, and then a 10.8 megapixel 5x optical sensor, and then a 10.8 megapixel ultra wide sensor. So 3 camera setup on the back, similar to the Pixel Pro. And then it has 20-watt wireless charging and 30-watt wired charging, and it is IPX8 rated for water resistance because these phones cannot be dust resistant based on the fact that they fold. But they did mention that this is currently the thinnest folding phone on the market when it's closed. And then when it's opened, it's the thinnest phone on the market, which is interesting. And so, that's kind of cool. I don't really care how thin it is when it's open. I do like that it is a lot thinner when it's closed. Again, making it a more usable phone as like when it is closed, and then you open it up to use it as a tablet when you want it to be a tablet. So I like that they're doing this because, like, I think the majority of the time that you're on this device is going to be on that front screen with it closed, using it as you normally would a phone. And then you open it up when you want to either watch a video on a bigger screen or do more productivity type stuff that you can't necessarily do on a smaller screen. So I like that they made that front screen as good a quality as the inside screen. And, it looks normal. It's got a really normal aspect ratio. And, yes, it is 5.8 inch, so it is on the smaller side, but that's fine. And then they went on to talk about all the different software features and stuff that this thing could do. They've been working with Samsung for the past few years on making foldable phones, like the software on it, really nice and easy to use. And they've implemented some new things here in the last few months that they're going to be implementing on this phone, like a pop-up little dock on the bottom that when you're in full screen mode, you just swipe up and the dock pops up with your recent apps. And then you can easily bring in 2 apps, and then you can swipe between, like, your multitasking. You go up and it keeps those 2 apps together, and then you can go back to other apps that have been paired together or different things like that. It's really cool. I think they've done a really good job of making these larger screen devices better with Android, because like we've said in the past and have continued to say very recently, Android tablets are just not great because the software experience has not been great. But Google has made a very significant different. Like they've changed the way that they've, started to focus on tablets, and it's really nice. It's getting a lot better. It's still nowhere near what an iPad is, but it is a lot better than it used to be. That is for sure. And like, this is the first foldable phone in this style that I've been tempted by. I'm not going to buy it because, listener, if you didn't already know, this thing costs $1,800. It is not cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, it is like, I will give it to Google because they put everything in here that is like flagship level, like the iPhone or the Pixel 7 Pro phone has. So the same cameras, the same screen, like all this stuff is flagship level. Whereas the Samsung Fold is not flagship level on the cameras. On both displays are not like the same quality, and they're still also charging $1,800 for that thing. So
Yeah.
there's that. Also, the way like the hinge works a little bit differently on this phone, and like because of the way it's set up, the screen, like the bezels on the screen, on the inside screen, are a little on the big side. It's not a horrible thing in my opinion because it does make it easier to hold, but the forehead and chin are a little big because of the way this hinge works. But it does seem to be the best option that we have seen so far on a foldable device. I think there is another company that uses this same hinge technology. I can't remember which one it was. I want to say, was it Huawei? I don't remember. There's another company that's doing the same type, like style of hinge. It's not Samsung. Hopefully Samsung will change to this. There's been rumors that they will. Probably not with the Fold 5, but the Fold 6 next year. Anyways, so that kind of
brings down the thickness of the device quite a bit, and I feel like that's still the biggest obstacle to these being like a mass marketable, hey, this is the phone for everybody kind of thing, is the fact that when you're holding it folded up, it's like a brick,
Yeah. That, and like I said with Samsung phones, the outside screen is just so weird to use.
Yeah.
Whereas, like I said, this one, it looks like a normal phone when it's closed. And that is a really nice thing. So, like, now it's obviously going to come down to marketing and people wanting to spend $1,800 to get this thing. But
yeah, I mean,
it is cool.
The price is high. The price is high for all of these flagship folding phones.
Yes.
And I think the thing that's, for Google, for a Pixel, it feels like, whoa, that's really expensive. But just because all of the other Pixels are priced super competitively for the rest of the market doesn't mean this is unusually expensive. It's kind of expected at about this price. It's just all the rest of the Pixels are way cheaper than everything else that's kind of in their category.
Yeah. And the other thing is this is their first iteration of a folding device. So they kind of got to pay for some R&D on this thing.
Yes.
I would assume that the next version, well, maybe not the next version, but like the third or fourth iteration will
probably
get cheaper.
Yeah.
Because as they've worked on it and, workshop different things will be easier to make. And they've already been making these things. They can use technology for the next phone that they've used in the previous one.
Yeah.
It'll get cheaper
Samsung started theirs at $2,000.
Yeah.
Like, it has started to come down in price a little bit.
Yeah.
Tiny bit.
Little bit.
Just a wee bit.
But like I said, this is the first folding phone in this iteration that I've been tempted by. Like, I've always thought if I get one, it'll be a flip phone. Like, I like that idea more. But the way that Google was showing this off and the way that this actually works, I'm like, okay, I could potentially see myself with this type of device because it actually, like, the software now is to a point that it's really usable. Some of the stuff they were showing off was really cool. Like, I really like it. But again, at $1,800, nope, not for me. Also, though, if you do pre-order this phone, you can get a free Pixel Watch. So that cuts the price down, supposedly a little bit. I mean, you're still paying $1,800, but you're getting a Pixel Watch out of it. So that's not horrible. I have also heard of different places that are going to be selling this at different prices, lower prices than that. There's different options out there. So if you are interested, you can find those options. I can't remember exactly where all the different places are and what the prices are, but it will be available at most places that you would buy a phone at. So that is the Google Pixel Fold. And finally, the last bit of hardware and the last thing that they really talked about was something that was announced at last year's Google I.O. and was said to be coming in early 2023. And I think we're past the point of it being early 2023, but here we are anyways. The Google Pixel Tablet. And before you get all, saying, well, Android tablets are the worst, because yes, I will also say that. This is nothing that is made to compete with even your Samsung tablets or your iPads. This is not a productivity device by any means. They are not marketing it that way. They did not show it off that way. This is a media consumption / home hub type device. And for that purpose, this tablet is really good, in my opinion. And the price on it, it's $599, and that comes with the little speaker dock. So, not bad. You're getting a decent speaker and charging device for it, and a tablet for $599. Pretty cool. The specs on this thing is it does have the Tensor G2 chip in it, so keeping in line with that. It's got 8 gigs of RAM.
We want to interrupt you. It's actually $499.
$499. Even that's right. $500.
Yep.
I hate 99 price point. Just say what.
Yeah. It's
anyway.
I had to double check. I was like, I thought it was $499.
As I was saying it, I was like, is it 5? I remember hearing 5 and 99.
Yeah.
So yeah, that makes more sense. $500, $499. There you go.
Yep.
So an even better deal with that. It's got a 27 watt hour battery, which in milliamp hours, I don't know what that is, but it's decent, I guess. They're saying up to 12 hours of battery life on this thing. The rear camera and front camera are both 8 megapixel sensors, but this is not, like I said, this is not a productivity device. You are not to take pictures with that back camera, because you shouldn't be doing that with an iPad either, because it's
literally
a tablet.
All you should use this for. This camera exists entirely for making Zoom calls with grandma.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. And it will be great for that.
Yep.
But that's what it should be used for. You should not be taking photos with this thing. You should use your phone for that, because that's what it's made to do.
Yep.
Anyways, the display on this thing is a 10.95-inch display at 2560 by 1600 pixels. It's got Wi-Fi 6, which is beneficial because that's what you should have at this point. It does not have a headphone jack, so you're not going to be plugging in headphones, but it comes with that nice speaker dock, which is also how it charges and different things. So you can listen to music on that. Like if you take it off that dock, it does have built-in speakers, which aren't horrible based on what I've heard from people using it. But using that dock does make it a lot better. It adds some bass, adds some depth to that sound. It's going to be a much better experience.
Yeah.
And you can pair some Bluetooth earbuds to this if you want. So there's that option. It does not come with a charging cable in the box, because you are to use the charging dock, but it does have a USB-C port on it, so you can charge it wired if you want to.
Yep.
But I mean, this is definitely being marketed and shown off as a at-home type device. It's not something that you could probably give it to your kid on a road trip or something, maybe to use as like watching Netflix or Disney or something like that. Mm-hmm. But like I said, you can't plug headphones into it, so you're going to have to use Bluetooth headphones for that. But it is kind of cool. Some features that I wanted to mention with this Pixel tablet, they make it really easy that if you want to switch between profiles of different people, like you can do that just by, on the top corner, it's got your photo there. You can tap on it and then switch to the other profile, and it's got a fingerprint sensor on the power button. So you can have your own apps and your own settings for what you want to use it for. So that's really nice. Something I wish would come to more tablets, different profiles. Apple, please do this. It also has a Chromecast built into it. So you can cast to this device, which is really cool. I mean, obviously you can also, download the apps that you would be casting to it with, like Netflix or Disney Plus or things like that. But if you just if you're watching something on your phone, you can cast it to this device really easily, and it works really nicely. They did mention that you will be able to buy other docks for this separately, and the dock itself will cost $129. So you can do that. At the moment, I haven't heard of anything where you could be able to buy just the tablet by itself. But
I was looking on here, actually at that just now, because it says it's one of the frequently asked questions. It says, no, you can only purchase the Pixel tablet with the charging dock, but you may purchase additional charging docks.
Yeah, and it makes sense because of like I said, the way that they're marketing this is basically a Google Home hub that you can take the display off and take on the couch and watch a show or something like that. It's not meant to be just a tablet. It's meant to sit there on the counter as a docked device that you can control your smart home stuff from, but also has the benefits of being a tablet as well. And so having that dock is it's not crucial and it's not 100% needed, but it is very beneficial to have that. And I do like the idea of being able to buy separate docks if you want to, because $129, as far as I can tell, a decent Bluetooth speaker that you could go, like if you're switching rooms and you want to continue watching something or whatnot, you can go and then put it on the dock and have that nice sound in multiple rooms, which is cool. But yeah, that is the Pixel tablet. Probably not something I'm going to be buying. It's not something I really need. I do have an iPad that I use for a lot of the same stuff I would use this for. Not necessarily as the home hub type stuff, but I also don't have a whole lot of smart home products to really need that. And all that stuff I can do on my phone as well. So it's not something for me. I do like it though. I like what Google is marketing this as. And at that price point, it's not bad at all. For $4.99,
Yeah.
Not going to complain. And the colors on this thing, it comes in porcelain, hazel, or rose. And I believe the hazel and rose both have the white bezels on the front, whereas the porcelain one, I don't know. There's one of them that has black on the, if you want that, instead of the white bezels. But it does look pretty nice. I'm a fan. But yeah, $4.99. And you can get it at multiple, like from Google, Best Buy, Amazon. They have it all over the place.
It looks like it's the hazel that has the black.
That makes sense. And that was Google I/O for this year.
Not bad at all.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline for software, and then obviously the hardware that's coming. I mean, hardware to be expected. Usually the 6A, 7A, the A versions of the phones.
Yeah.
And then like the tablet. I actually was pretty interested in the tablet. Kind of looking at it, it seems pretty cool. I think the thing I don't like when I was looking at it though is obviously I get why they did it, but you can't connect any Bluetooth to the dock. And I kind of double checked it down here. It says, can I pair it with any Bluetooth audio device? And it says no. The charging dock speaker only works with the Pixel tablet when it's docked. And then I asked, and then on here it says, can multiple speaker docks pair together? I said no.
That is kind of unfortunate, but at the same time, like I said, the tablet does have a Chromecast built in, so if it's docked,
right, yeah,
you could cast whatever music you're listening to from your phone to the device and then get that same speaker experience.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yes, it is kind of I think it's not a great thing that they didn't do that, but they do have that workaround, so it's
Yeah.
more or less fine. But yeah, that would have been a nice added bonus
Yeah.
if they would have done that.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's fine. Like, yeah. But
Especially if you want to buy multiple of these docks, like being able to pair them for I don't know why you would want to pair these for surround sound, but I guess you could. Especially if it only works with the tablet. But if you want to have one of these docks in a different room and you don't have the tablet and you want to listen to music, even if the dock itself was a Chromecast, had that built in instead of just Bluetooth, but that would be nice. But yeah, so maybe down the road, I don't know. We'll see. They could potentially add that feature. I guess if, that all depends on if the hardware is there, I guess, inside the speaker.
yeah. Who knows? We'll see. I'm sure we'll get all sorts of... I haven't looked at any reviews or anything if there has been for... I'm sure there is.
I almost forgot. The most important thing that came out of Google I.O. was not talked about at the keynote. This was something that happened on the side and usually does, but we now have the new Android version Bugdroid statue.
Oh.
And it is a Bugdroid dressed up in an astronaut suit. Now, which is weird to me because generally it's always been like whatever sweet dessert the Android is named after. Like, obviously now it's been an internal name, but that's not what this is. And I guess last year's technically wasn't that either. Last year's was that weird looking swing thing. If you remember that, that was fun. But this one, apparently, like their reasoning behind the astronaut is, Google has been like the logo for Android 14 is, as they said, is heavily borrowing from the Apollo 14 mission patch. So, like, if you kind of go and look at a lot of the little theming behind some of the Android 14 stuff, you'll see that type of thing. So, that's where they got the inspiration for this new Bugdroid statue.
Gotcha.
So, but if you want to see it, it is, like, you can go look at it online. There's pictures of it available. They haven't put it out, like, on the grounds yet where the rest of the statues are. It was currently just inside available to look at, but they do have it there, and it does look pretty cool. So,
Gotcha.
But that was Google I.O. for this year. There is one more bit of tech news that I wanted to talk about, and I guess this was kind of mentioned at Google I.O., not fully, but apparently Google is partnering with Wendy's, of all companies, and they're going to be using Google's AI chatbot inside of Wendy's drive-thrus. And they, like, I did notice this, like, I'd heard about this before before I watched the keynote, I should say. I don't know if this was announced before I.O. or not, but I remember hearing about this before I watched the keynote. And then as I watched it, they did have the Wendy's CEO in a little video explaining different things. And what he said is, we want people to be able to, right now you can go to Wendy's and say, I want a JBC, which is a junior bacon cheeseburger, but a lot of people just call it a JBC. And so, like, someone that works there is going to know what that is. But they want this AI chatbot to also know what that is. So they're trying to partner, like I said, they're partnering with Google to do this. So that now when you go to, or not now, like, I don't know when this is going to be implemented, but when you go to Wendy's and you're ordering through the drive-thru, it won't be a person anymore. It will be an AI chatbot that will give your order to a person to make your order and then give it to you. But you will be talking to not a person. So that's interesting. Now, for me, I usually just use the app and order on the app. And then if I go through the drive-thru, I'm like, hey, I've got a mobile order. Here's my name. And then I pull through and get my food.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you. You're one of the good ones.
Yeah.
No, like, honestly, if you eat at Wendy's and you're not using the app pretty much exclusively to order, not only are you wasting your and everyone else's time, but you are also losing out on free food.
Yes.
So just saying.
Yeah, you can get points. You can get points to get free food. And also they have lots of really good deals on their app as well.
Yep.
Like,
frequently.
I've gotten a free Baconator. That's an $8
Oh,
sandwich.
Man,
Because
that
I
was
have
like
enough points to get a free Baconator, and it's great.
Well, the best is when you have enough points to get a free Baconator, and then they have the coupon for a buy one, get one for $1 premium
Yes.
sandwich. So you buy a Baconator using your free points. You get a second Baconator for $1. You paid $1. You get 2 Baconators.
Yeah.
This is $1 for $16 worth of sandwich.
Yes.
And Baconators are still honestly one of the best, fast food hamburgers that money can buy. So
it's true.
just anyways, that we went in a really weird direction with that. I was going to speak up and say, before you mentioned that you usually use the app, that like I also use the app primarily, and I honestly would like to see them implement this in the app so that I could just kind of like hop in the car, and as I'm driving to
that
Wendy's,
would be
just kind of
great.
yell at my phone and have it place the order for
I
me.
want a JBC.
Now, okay, I do think that is happening because in this little video snippet that showed the CEO of Wendy's, and I mean, it had different companies as well, it did show in the app ability to say your order in the
Yeah.
app. So yes,
that'll be great.
I do believe they didn't. I haven't seen that mentioned anywhere, but in this little video, it did show that. So that feature is probably going to be coming inside of the Wendy's app and potentially other food apps down the road.
Nice.
And I like
I'm
that.
here for it. I am here for it.
Yeah. So that finally, after an hour and a half, is all of my tech news, and I will just. I can't say I'll shut up, but I'm not going to talk nearly as much anymore.
Oh man. Okay. Well, Caleb, do you have anything else you want to add to that, or have any kind of thing you want to?
You know what? I have Apple news. Apple actually did a thing this past week, listener. It's the best news. Seriously. Apple Music Classical. No. It was right there. Okay. So, there is a small subset of extremely hardcore Apple fans who have bought in hook, line, and sinker to Apple's rhetoric about the iPad being the replacement of the computer. Apple hasn't even bought into their own rhetoric on that point, but these people are, I'm trying to think of a nice way to say it, determined enough to make the iPad a computer that they will hear no arguments against it. Apple has actually thrown them a bone this past week by launching Final Cut and Logic on the iPad, like native iPad versions of inarguably some of the best professional video production and music production software on the market. So, I don't think anybody is... Okay, nobody should be expecting these to be full drop-in replacements for the desktop Mac versions of Final Cut and Logic, because they're not. They won't be. It's an iPad app, guys. And yes, the iPad is hilariously overpowered for the vast majority of the use cases that the iPad is actually used for. And these apps probably do actually have a prayer of utilizing all of the power that is built into the M1 powered iPads and stuff like that. But even so, it's not going to, it's not going to be a replacement. However, there's definitely some circumstances I can think of where you're a musician on the go, you've got your iPad with you, you want to quickly, inspiration strikes, you've got a beat, whatever you want to throw down or whatever. In the past, you probably could have just used GarageBand and then imported it into Logic, and then you'd have to tweak it in order to fix it and stuff like that, but it's good enough, maybe. And for the vast majority of people that are doing music production on their iPads, GarageBand was always good enough, and it's free. But I can see the use case of being able to grab your iPad, pull out Logic, quickly jot down your ideas, throw them into a track or whatever, and then being able to natively import it into your actual Mac version of Logic when you get home seems really useful. There's probably a similar kind of way that you could integrate the mobile version of Final Cut into your use case, your workflow for Final Cut itself. So that's kind of what they're doing here. They're making the iPad look like a more attractive secondary device for folks that are already using Final Cut and Logic on their Mac. It's not going to replace anything like that, but it may allow some people to ditch the MacBook that they have in addition to their Mac Studio, you know?
Wow.
So instead of having to spring for a full-on second high-powered Mac, you can just get an iPad Pro, which will cost less and is lighter, easier to carry, and it's a better media consumption experience anyways when you're on the plane. So
Yeah.
Now,
Nice.
so that's that.
yeah, like it's funny because like I remember when they first came out with M series chips in the iPads, and we're like, "Hey, give us something."
Give us
To
a reason
justify,
for that,
yes.
please.
And they tried to convince us that Stage Manager was that reason. No, Stage Manager was not that reason. It was just not
Nope.
at all. This is a reason for the M series chips in an iPad.
Yes.
And like
Yes.
Caleb said, this is definitely not going to replace a Mac Studio, or if they ever come out with a Mac Pro that has an M series chip in it, it will not replace that. But this could, in theory, replace a MacBook Pro as your, like Caleb
Your
said, your
secondary
travel type device, your secondary device to that Mac Studio desktop. Or even, at this point, the Mac Mini with the M2 Pro would be better than an iPad for this purpose. But as your secondary device, it's going to be great, and it's going to be a little cheaper. And like Caleb said, more easily travelable. Like take it on the plane, you can use it for other things as well. It's really nice. I look at this as like it's not something that I would ever use to replace for audio editing, but I could see if you are a podcaster and you don't want to buy a laptop, you could legitimately get an iPad. I mean, you could get an iPad and use GarageBand for that matter. But
Yes.
if you are one of those weird podcasters that uses Logic for some dumb reason, then you could get an iPad and do that. And that could be your entire editing device, editing, recording, all that stuff right there, you know, and it's an iPad. So it works for a lot of different things. But yeah, it's not going to replace for anybody doing high-end music editing. It's not for you as a main device.
No. And I think that Apple's been pretty clear about that in the way that they've talked about it and presented the apps.
Yeah.
And you know, for if you're looking at this and thinking to yourself, you know what? I probably could do all of my video or music creation and editing on an iPad. You already had the ability to do that. For what you need, probably GarageBand and iMovie were good enough. Maybe not iMovie. Maybe Final Cut will be better than that. But it's not for the folks. Like, really, these are not for the folks that are like, oh, I want to casually like edit some movies and stuff on the iPad on the go, or little home movie edits or stuff like that. iMovie is still the place you want to go for that, right?
Yeah.
GarageBand is still the place you want to go for your basic, like, we're just kind of goofing around in jam session kind of thing, and I want to record it and be able to edit it later. That's GarageBand still. Like, really, you don't have to spend money on Final Cut and Logic for the iPad to get that stuff. You can just use your iPad with GarageBand and iMovie, and it's totally fine. But these will be really nice additions to the pocket of professionals. So,
yeah.
And that's it. That's all the Apple news I've got. That was it.
Gotcha. No, that's good. All right. I don't have too much, but one thing I did want to mention for Xbox owners that have Series X or S and has been waiting for storage expansion cards to come down in price. Well, it's your lucky day. If you remember, dear listener, and if you've been looking at this, these things are expensive. So for a 2 terabyte storage option is for $399 to add storage into your Xbox. So that was the 2 terabyte. The 1 terabyte is $299, and then they do have a 512, which is $139. They have actually, and what had happened was the Xbox partnered with Seagate. Seagate made these, and then for about 2 years now, no one else made them. they were thinking that more people would hop on this bandwagon for the storage and prices will go down. Well, they didn't for a long time. Now they have, because there's been rumor that Western Digital's hopped on to help with this, and other companies are coming. So they've cut the prices darn near in half
Wow.
for everything. So 2 terabyte cards are now $279. 1 terabyte is $149, and the 512 is now $89. So darn near in half for these storage cards.
That's good.
So what to wonder what had happened, I was trying to look this up, and I can't remember the exact technology that this storage is that Xbox decided with. It is not the NVMe SSD. It's a different SSD. I was trying to look it up real fast. I didn't see it, but it's a different type that when they decided to roll this out, they thought that with the NVMEs, they saw the price were going up, so they thought maybe this would be a better option. What had happened is they released this, and then NVMe hard drives, SSDs, decided to go drop in price drastically. And these just stayed up really high. So that's why they're quite expensive. But now, I mean, they're cutting in price. More people are getting into this, and yeah, more bang for the buck on there. Like literally cutting them in half. So that's good. and that's definitely for that Xbox Series S if you got that, because that only comes with 512 gigabytes of storage on itself.
Yeah.
So buying one of these is going to help. So sweet.
Yep.
I did
That's
want to
good.
mention that. So
It's that was like honestly one of the things that the PS5 at launch had as a gigantic trump card over the Xbox. Is like you could just go buy a PCIe Gen 4 drive and slap it in there.
yeah.
And
Now at the time when they did launch, I do remember it was just a tad more expensive on the Xbox side.
It wasn't
but the
a
thing that
lot
they
more
were toting,
expensive, just a little bit.
Yep. But the thing that Xbox was toting is like, oh, you just slide it in and there it is. There is no,
Yeah.
you got to unscrew anything, which would great. But then all of a sudden that price just tanked for the NVMe, and people are like, you know what? I'll buy the screwdriver.
Seriously, it's not that hard to upgrade
Yeah.
a PS5. It's just
So,
slide the side panel off and undo a screw.
Yep.
Put it back in.
so yeah. So here you go. Xbox, I bet they're relieved for this. So
Yes.
it's kind of nice. I am, because I know I was a sucker that got a terabyte one. So I could have got the 2 of them for that price, but
Yep.
yep, that's what happened. So that is coming. Also, you'll probably hear about this we're going to talk about the ABK deal real fast. As a recording, we are recording on the 14th. The 15th is when the EU is going to have their decision. You listener, even if you're not in gaming, will probably hear about this. I think this is pretty much a make or break it.
Probably.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
For
I think if the EU fires down on it, even if appeals are going well in the UK right now, that probably is going to be Xbox. Just like, you know what? Screw it. We're done.
they'll take that 69 billion elsewhere, I guess.
Yeah.
So who knows? And I mean, who knows what will happen with Activision? I don't know. It seems like they're firing pretty good on all cylinders on certain things. So
Yeah, just so long as they're firing pretty good on all of the executives, like get rid of them.
yeah,
Like,
firing. That was good. That was good. I like it. So you'll probably hear about this before we record next week. I mean, so we'll have a week of it happening.
But we'll
and then
talk about it anyway.
all the news and all the news that comes from it, whether it's approved or not. Because I'm going to be honest, even if it's approved, I don't know where to go from here because you still have the other ones, and like, I don't know. So as it falls, we'll definitely report on it and be like, hey, this is what's up, and that's going to be big. So, alrighty, well, that's pretty much all the news that I have, unless Landon pulls one more thing out of a hat.
Oh my gosh.
No, don't. I guess I shouldn't have done quite the air horn celebration there. This is nothing crazy. I just wanted to mention that new game from the makers of Outdoors Odyssey and Outdoors Adventure, Leia's Horizon, is available now to download. and I did actually download it today, but I have not yet played it, so I can't give you, like a hands-on experience of what it's like yet, but it is available to download if you want to try it. It is free to play initially. It did mention that there are in-app purchases. Like I said, I have not played it yet, so I don't exactly know what those are, but based on the developers, I have high hopes. Based on that it's Netflix, I'm worried about the in-game transactions, but you never know. So,
Yeah.
but that's my one more thing. Leia's Horizon is available to download. There you go.
Yep. That was pretty good. I mean, we like that Alto Odyssey, so.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap up the episode. Listener, we appreciate you listening to us this far through the whole episode. If you have any questions or want to get a hold of us, you can on our social media platforms. You can also get a hold of us at callingallplatforms.com. If you want to check out any of the videos that SpenLab's definitely been working on.
Yep.
And
Totally.
us streaming and putting videos up. You can check those out. Calling All Platforms on YouTube. If you want to support Landon with dealing with us yoo-hoos and making it sound way better than probably the OG recordings that he gets from us, throw him a bone there over at Patreon. All right, dear listener, have a good week.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Calling All Platforms is a production of Supporter Sound Studios. To learn more about how you can support the podcast, go to www.patreon.com/callingallplatforms.